and good evening, everyone. Welcome to the first session tonight of PEO's 2025 Council Election All-Candidate Meetings. My name is Marisa Sterling, and I will be the moderator for tonight's discussion. Tonight, we will hear from the candidates for Councillor-at-Large. The four candidates participating in tonight's meeting are Vaj Banday, Paula Klink, Sean DeClure, and Glenn Shearning. Now, unfortunately, only 3 of our candidates can be here this evening. Glenn Shearning informed us yesterday that he is unable to attend due to an unexpected family-related issue that requires his presence. He sends his apologies to all in attendance and is more than happy to be contacted by anyone interested. His email is glenn_shearning@rogers.com. The electronic meetings with the candidates via webcast enable voters to learn more about the candidates and PEO issues. And we hope that more license holders will vote and be better informed, having heard directly from the candidates. Candidates were provided with some questions in advance, and Ontario license holders were also able to pose questions online in advance of this discussion. We'll try to get to as many questions as possible. In accordance with the approved protocol for the all candidates meetings, I, as moderator, may shorten the questions and not read out preambles to questions, may select any question, may remove offensive and duplicate questions, and may add questions not on the platform. Each candidate will be provided 2 minutes for opening remarks. I will then direct a question to a candidate. That candidate will have 1 minute to respond to the question. After the candidate has responded, the remaining candidates will have 1 minute to address the first candidate's response to that question. Following the question period, the candidates will have 90 seconds each for closing remarks. The order of speakers was determined by a draw earlier this evening. The views and opinions expressed on this broadcast do not necessarily reflect the views of Professional Engineers Ontario and are the responsibility of the candidates. So, without further delay, let's get started with the opening remarks. The first candidate for Councillor-at-Large is Vaj Banday. Vaj, please go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Engineer Marisa Sterling, Dr. Klink, and Engineer Declo, and other participants who are watching this debate, my fellow engineers. The first pressing issue within our organization is that PEO must become a world leader in engineering self-regulation. Professions in Canada, including engineering, calls upon members to govern themselves to protect the interests of the public. However, PEO is becoming increasingly isolated from members, and the decisions are being made on your behalf, the members, without any input from members. This must stop. Another pressing issue is many engineering graduates are not seeking engineering licenses or PEs. The reason for that is the PEO's licensing process is very archaic. This must be addressed. PEO has also refused to adapt to the 21st century and modernize itself. We are still licensing people only in 5 engineering core disciplines and their ancillaries, while ignoring many new engineering disciplines. In any case, PEO must change. Over my tenure as PEO volunteer, I have served as a chair of the Georgian Bay chapter, served on the board of Scarborough, Mississauga, and Niagara Falls chapters. I was appointed as a Lieutenant Governor appointee to PEO Council in 2019, and I was elected as Councillor-at-Large for the year 2022-2024. During my time, we elected the first ever female CEO in conformance with EDI. I, along with other councillors, we were able to put emerging disciplines on the PEO work plan. I'm experienced and I have deep understanding of what must change to bring PEO back to its members. Help me by re-electing me as your Councillor-at-Large. Please visit my website, www.votevaj.com. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vaj. I would like to now go to the second candidate for Councillor-at-Large, which is Paula Klink. Paula, please go ahead.
Oops. Okay, let's start again.
Perfect.
Hello, and thank you for listening to this Councillor-at-Large forum. I immigrated to Canada in 2000 after working in engineering positions in the US and have practiced environmental engineering here in Eastern Ontario since then. In the US, I worked in industry and never needed a license like most engineers there. I had the same struggle as many immigrants have with PEO, and my mentor helped me through the licensure. Since then, I've been trying to help others get their license, either through the PEO or other regulators. I understand the challenges that prospective licensees face, and I really want to make a difference through PEO Counselor. I was active in engineering organizations before I moved here, but had challenges volunteering with PEO. I was accepted into the Canadian Engineering Accreditation Board, where I served for 10 years in increasing leadership roles, culminating in representing Engineers Canada at the International Engineering Alliance Washington Accord meetings. I have experience with engineering and regulation at the national and international level. I am currently chairing a review of an engineering regulator's practice for adherence to APEC guidelines. So I have been asked to run for PEO counselor many times, and I think the time is right for me now. I would like to focus on transparency, fairness, equity, and cooperation with other organizations. I want to help others get their license, as my mentor has helped me, and I ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Paula. And now the third candidate participating tonight for Councillor-at-Large is Sean DeClue. Sean, please go ahead with your opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sean DeClue, and I'm joining tonight from Toronto, where I've lived and worked for the past 10 years. For those familiar with successfully buying tickets to see your favorite sports team, band, or artist in concert on Ticketmaster, you're familiar with my experience in applying for professional engineering licensure. Set reminders, you joined a virtual queue well in advance. The second it opened, you secured the tickets and you triumphed. In June of 2020, 4 years after starting my first role in engineering, I sat in front of my computer, email prepped with experience logs demonstrating my application of theory, experience, management, communication, and knowledge of social implications of engineering. And at exactly 12 a.m., that's 12:00, I hit send. And a few months later, in August of 2020, I received the incredible news that my application had been accepted. Achieving professional engineering licensure is one of the proudest moments of my life, and upholding the duties and responsibilities continue to bring me happiness. As an international graduate studying civil engineering at the University of Maine before I returned home to Canada, I was subject to hurdles that my Canadian university graduating colleagues were not. In similar fashion to Paula, thanks to tremendous support and clarity provided through the EIT program, I'm now a proud license holder and practicing engineer here in Ontario. I am here tonight to extend my knowledge and passion for the profession, and with your help and trust, give back in the form of serving on PEO's council.
Thank you very much, Sean. So that now concludes the opening remarks segment. So now let's go to our questions. So the first question will go to Vaj. And the question is, what do you see as your role as a councillor that is a member of the board of directors in the fulfillment of PEO's core mandate? And you have 1 minute to respond. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Engineer Sterling. So what do I see as my role as a councillor is, as a councillor, we are supposed to mandate the regulate engineering profession, and other than mandate is to protect the public interest. As a councillor, we are also expected to adhere to the issues from the membership, as well as serve on, as a councillor, as well as serve on a few PEO committees. Well, one of them. There are 4 governance committees. And by working in partnership with other councillors, we can get the issues addressed. Always whenever new issue comes in from the membership, which comes to the grassroots, we are supposed to address those issues, take a deep dive, working with, of course, working with staff and address those. So that's basically the role of a counselor on the PEO Council. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vaj. So I'll now give a chance for the other two candidates to respond to what they heard. So Paula, would you like to go ahead for 1 minute and comment on what you heard to the answer to the first question?
Sure. In my opinion, the board of directors' role is to not only ensure that the requirements of the Professional Engineers Act are carried out in a transparent and equitable manner, but also to make changes, as Vaj alluded to PEO policies and procedures. And I do think one of the important roles of Councillor-at-Large, and for really anyone on any sort of governing body like this, is come prepared to the meetings with ideas, but ready to listen and come up with pragmatic solutions to problems.
Thanks, Paula. And Sean, what about yourself? You have 1 minute if you'd like to comment on what you heard in the response to this first question.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think between what Paula and Vaj mentioned about strategic oversight, transparent governance, and stakeholders, I think was another key thing mentioned. PEO has a large role in engaging on all of those fronts. So no, nothing to disagree with. And I would like to just iterate the fact that a lot of these things I am fortunate to be very privy to in day-to-day engineering life. This means, advocating and delivering projects on behalf of different levels of government, transparent project reporting, and the opportunity to engage with a diverse range of stakeholders, all of which I think will translate very nicely to a council role.
Thank you very much, Sean. So I now would like to have the second question, and it will go to Paula first. And the question is, can you please share what special skills, experience, or ideas that you bring to enhance the governance of PEO? So for example, what boards have you served on that might be similar to PEO's council? Any other related experience?
Sure, I'm just going through my notes. So I have a lot of experience serving on boards, starting with the Canadian Engineering Accreditation Board. I think that has given me a lot of experience really understanding how to work with policies, how to work with procedures. I first got involved with governance of engineering boards with the Society of Women Engineers, which is the world's largest advocate for women in engineering in the 1980s and 1990s. I've served on boards for the City of Kingston and the Limestone District School Board. In these positions, I've honed teamwork, leadership skills, including active listening, problem solving, collaboration with people with disparate viewpoints, and coming up with consensus solutions.
Thank you so much, Paula, for sharing that. Sean, I'd like to offer for you to comment on this question or anything you've heard from Paula.
Certainly. I have no comments for what Paula had mentioned. However, I would like to speak a little bit to some of my own traits that I think make me a good candidate for the position, starting with leadership. During my university years, I played Division I football in the United States and was a team elected captain, serving as a representative of a team of up to 100 players at once. I've carried those similar leadership traits into the workplace, currently overseeing a team of 15, predominantly trained in engineering, and I've done so on large public projects. So know how to engage with diverse ranges of stakeholders. Lastly, one relevant other position, I'm a volunteer board member for Football Toronto, coincidentally, a nonprofit with a mandate to protect and grow tackle football in the GTA.
Great, thank you so much for sharing all that experience, Sean. And Vaj, I'd like to give you also a chance to talk about your experience and anything that you've heard from the other candidates on this question.
Yeah, thanks for the question. In terms of the special skills I would like to bring to the PEO Council, I have been volunteering for PEO in various positions for about 17 years. I got my 15-year voluntary award in November 2023. In addition to that, while on the council, I served on council twice as Lieutenant Governor appointee and as Councillor-at-Large. I served on Governance and Nomination Committee, which are called PEO super committees, and Audit and Finance Committee, as well as a committee called Budget Committee, which no longer exists. In addition to that, I have also served on Engineers for Profession Board since 2019. I also served on Saugeen Church United Football Club for many years, and also as a delegate on Society of United Professionals from 2009 till about 2023. So I have a lot of experience, which I have honed over the years by serving for various boards to bring it to the council if I am fortunate enough to be elected to the PEO Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vaj. So we're going to go to the third question, and Sean, we'll have you answer this question first. And I actually want to pick up on what I heard from your introduction in terms of being licensed with international education. So let me ask you, from a public protection standpoint, what, if any, value do you see in PEO's efforts to streamline the licensure of engineering graduates, whether they be Canadian or internationally trained?
Certainly. I think it's important to consider that streamlining can come in different shapes and forms and isn't just the opportunity to condense the experience period. The process of obtaining experience, fulfilling requirements, documenting competencies, and soliciting feedback contains float. Many aspiring engineers, both recent and not so recent graduates, I have helped mentor, and a lot of them have actually been unemployed. So I feel like there's a common ground through PEO's EIT program where I wasn't able to actually insert myself and help with employment. So there was a clear kind of delineation of tasks there. So I think one of the largest opportunities PEO has is to potentially support in other forms employment and as an extension through the EIT program.
Great. Thanks, Sean. Vaj, let me go over to you to comment. And having been a counselor already and involved with the streamlining efforts of PEO with regards to licensure of graduates, what are your thoughts about the value added to this process?
Yeah, in the last few years, there was actually a good program PEO implemented, which is called FARPEC. That is basically to streamline the process of people who are aspiring to become licensed. However, there was one disadvantage that PEO on their own decided to do away with. Are you able to hear me?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Well, unfortunately, they closed the EIT program, which fortunately is going to be rolled back. And I was also benefited from EIT program, and I applied way back in 2006. And by the way, for everybody's information, I'm also licensed in Michigan. So I know the process, how it works in US and in Canada. And also PEO has adopted CBA, competency-based assessment, which is good for streamlining the process of licensure.
Good. Thanks very much, Vaj. So I'd like to go over to you, Paula, with this question, adding any comments, and realizing that in your opening remarks, you commented also on your role in accreditation of Canadian education. So again, from a public protection standpoint, what, if any, value do you see in PEO's efforts to try to streamline the licensure of engineering graduates?
Man, I wish we had more than a minute to talk about this. So one of the issues is I don't think that PEO really understands the workings of the Canadian Engineering Accreditation Board and the level of education that the regulators, not only here in Ontario, but across the province, have agreed upon that's needed to practice engineering in Canada in comparison to other international jurisdictions, including those covered by the Washington Accord, which is the international agreement on engineering education. Non-CEAB graduates do not have the same rigor of program evaluation, not a program. I'm not saying the programs aren't necessarily equivalent. We don't know that because their programs are not evaluated in the same way. That is why jurisdictions in other countries require knowledge-based exams. Vag has a license in Michigan because he passed a series of tests that most people in the US do not take. So they had to
Thank
go
you.
above that. I went over my time.
Yeah, thanks for explaining that, though. I appreciate it. I'm sure the audience does as well. So listen, let's go to our next question, but it's kind of related. So I heard a few of you talk about engineering interns. So in this past year, the council at a recent meeting directed the PEO staff to come back and provide it with some proposals for a newer, revised, reimagined EIT program, engineering intern program. So, what's your vision for PEO's role, and what is the place for engineering interns, do you think, in the profession going forward? So, Vaj, let's start with you.
Yeah, I think that was a good decision done by council. Unfortunately, as I said, the unintended consequence of implementing FARPECTA, which was that we were done with the EIT program. EIT program has helped many people, maybe not all, but it has had great benefits. You are partnered with a mentor. They help you going through the process. Like tomorrow, we have a same event at a lessons assistant program at Kingston chapter. So it was helping, in particular, the international and foreign trained professionals. Sure, it will be reimagined. I mean, in a newer form, which we have to see and stuff as an action to come up with. I think that will definitely help many more people who have been in the queue for many years to get licensed. When we roll it back, sure, as I said, it will be in a newer form. That's okay. So I am in support of rolling it back. And if elected, I will be the first one to support this program in whichever way we get it back.
Thank you very much. So listen, let's go to you next, Paula. And what are your thoughts about, what's your vision for PEO's role and the place of engineering interns in the profession going forward?
I think the position of engineering intern is a really important one. Quite often students graduate from engineering, they get their iron ring and they think, oh, I'm an engineer now. And that's really not necessarily the case. I think it's important that we take the young, when I say young, I don't mean young in age, I mean young in practice experience, and give them guidance, let them know directions that they want to have. One of the nice things you talked about, Vaj talked earlier about competency-based assessment that PEO adopted. It's really worked well in other jurisdictions. It really helps people like me and people like Sean who guide young engineers into roles where they can get their competencies checked off. And out of time, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sean, let's go to you. What are your thoughts on this question, specifically PEO's role in his role in the place of engineering interns in the profession?
Certainly. Like Paula and Vaj, I am a big advocate of the engineering training program. As I mentioned in my preamble, I was enrolled and then later served as a licensure assistance guide, helping over 10 EIT and engineering candidates gain their professional licensure. I think the two main things that the program needs to include are clarity and instilling confidence, because a common theme across many of the engineering interns and myself were, I don't know where to look next, I don't know what to do next, and that can become a vicious cycle of losing confidence. So if we can keep EITs with clear sights ahead, how to progress, and keep them confident that the process is going to work, I think that's the big role that PEO can play.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. So listen, our next question, we're going to start with Paula. And the question is just stepping back a bit. I mean, we've talked about this particular discussion around engineering interns, but what do you see as the most important challenge facing PEO today? And what do you think council should do to address that?
So I think really the most important challenge PEO has today is staying relevant to professionals in the engineering field. I think one of the things that the Professional Engineers Act does is it sets the minimum that must be done. It was written in 1990 and it really has not changed substantially since then. I think new engineering practices, back then they were considered cross-disciplinary practices. New ways of learning, new ways of working were not even contemplated when in 1990 when it was created. I think we need to be more inclusive of who can be an engineer, how we can support them in what they do. We need to include non-traditional and emerging disciplines. We need to support people who want to register that work in non-traditional settings, including settings that may not currently have an engineer working there. So I think staying relevant is most important.
Yeah, thank you very much for that response, Paula. Sean, what are your thoughts around, what's the most important challenge you think facing PEO today and what you think council should do to address that challenge?
Sorry if this isn't very exciting, but I agree wholeheartedly with Paula that maintaining relevance in an ever-changing and rapidly changing industry, I totally agree, is like the #1 challenge facing PEO. I think council needs to focus on modernizing the licensure process, not just gaining licensure, but also maintaining, which we've seen steps towards in recent years. But there's always opportunity to continue to improve on that, public engagement, and then ensuring that the regulatory framework adapts to some of the emerging technologies that we're seeing. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Sean. So Badge, over to you. What do you think? 3 through 3? Your agreement, or do you want to add anything else? Like, what do you think is the most important challenge facing PEO today, and what do you think council should do to address that?
Yeah, I believe, my personal opinion, PEO, the most important issue facing PEO is it has started becoming irrelevant. As I said, we haven't modernized and we are still kind of in the 20th century, where licensing people only in 5 traditional disciplines and their ancillaries. And the emerging discipline, which is very fast expanding, we haven't addressed it. Although, thanks to my fellow councillors, we were able to put the emerging discipline issue on the PEO task work plan. I hope that there is some decision made on that. There was one president whose opinion was that PEO should shrink, but I am of the opinion PEO should expand, not shrinking. I am of the opinion we should license people in emerging disciplines. There are few of them, and many more will be coming in next few years. That would be my opinion. That's the most pressing impacting PEO right now.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Badge. Thank you all. I want to build on this question because, in fact, in PEO's 2023 to 2025 strategic plan, it states to ensure that stakeholders see relevance and value in PEO. So maybe we can get a little more specific. If you reflect on this goal, and we're going to start with you, Sean, who do you think are some of PEO's key stakeholder groups or organizations? What do you think a meaningful and appropriate engagement might look like?
I think that PEO's key stakeholders are the government, the public, its engineers, employers, and then, of course, academic institutions. These sound like big institutional and complex stakeholders, government, academia, but the key to meaningful engagement does not differ, in my opinion, how you approach these types of stakeholders versus how you deal with colleagues, friends, or family. I think it's important to have meaningful engagement, and this can come in the form of regular, consistent consultation, transparent and open two-way communication, and collaborative initiatives that address stakeholder concerns.
Thanks very much, Sean. Badge, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, the key PEO key stakeholders for 2023-2026 PEO strategic objectives are government, well, as Sean mentioned, learned societies. There are many learned societies. They are prime stakeholders, academia, and other bodies like Engineers Canada, maybe sometimes OSPI, and staff. We cannot do anything without staff. They are a key stakeholder. and then some environmental scans done when that strategic objective was put in place. So those will be the key stakeholders, learned societies, engineers, Canada, OSPI, staff, PEO, council, and government, sure, academia.
Thanks, Vaj. And over to you, Paula. What are your thoughts about, who would you identify as some of these key stakeholder groups and organizations for PEO, and what is meaningful and appropriate engagement with them when we think about the idea of building relevance and value for PEO?
So the two stakeholders that haven't yet been mentioned, I agree with all of the ones that have been mentioned, so I'm not talking about those, but are number one, industries, small businesses, people that employ engineers, and engineering graduates who do not seek licensure. And so I think those are two demographics that are really hard to get. I think we need to rope, and Vaj had mentioned OSPI. I think we need to work more collaboratively with OSPI, rope them in to help with this work. Otherwise, it seems a bit self-serving. I think we need to talk to students before they graduate, or maybe young professionals, but talk to them in workshop settings rather than in more formal presentations. In Ontario, like I said, we need to focus on small businesses and businesses currently without engineers who could use their expertise.
Thanks very much. Thank you all for those answers. So we're going to move to our next question, and we're going to start with you, Vaj. So PEO is governed by an act, the Professional Engineers Act. It's governed by regulations, and these describe some of the core mandates for PEO. So my question for you, we've talked about a couple of topics already, but is there anything that you want to bring to the table that you think PEO could and should do to really enhance its public interest protection, its ability to really protect the public interest?
Yes, in addition to what's described in the Act and the PEO mandate, I think one important issue we as council, our PEO has been ignoring for many, many years is looking at the environment. There is nothing in the mandate. I know it's not an easy process to include environment change in the mandate, but at least we can go through a committee like PEO, Professional Standards Committee, and come and address the issue of mandate. I address the issue of environment and include it in maybe eventually in PEO mandate. That's one pressing issue I think needs to be included in the PEO mandate.
Thanks very much. So Paula, we'll go over to you. I'll just repeat it. In terms of PEO is governed by an act, Professional Engineering Act, and it has its mandate written in there, and public protection is core to that. So is there anything that you want to add around what PEO can and should do to really enhance its public protection mandate?
Yeah, I will just say that, I really think we need to work collaboratively with other organizations, not only OSPI, like I said in my last answer, but they need to talk with the associated regulators in the province, such as PGO, the Professional Geoscientists Ontario, and OSET, the Ontario Association of Certified Technicians and Technologists, as our practices often complement and overlap with theirs. We need to work on better communication in our membership, governmental regulatory agencies like MECP, who don't really require work to be done by licensed professionals, either PGO or PNGIS always. We need, talking about what Vaj said, I think PEO can have members sit on OSPI committees. For example, OSPI has a climate committee and report back to PEO to figure out how we can enhance public protection within our mandate.
Thanks very much, Paula. And Sean, let's go over to you with the final thoughts on this question, and I'll just restate it in terms of the Professional Engineers Act. It describes what the duties and mandate is of PEO. And so is there anything you think PEO can or should be doing to really enhance its core mandate of protecting the public interest?
Again, I think Paula and Vaj both touched on it, but PEO has a pretty big voice, reaching out to nearly 100,000 licensed engineers across Ontario, as well as those aspiring in the province. That said, partnership with other big voices, specifically those who are, at the cutting edge of safety or best practice, as well as like further public reach, I think is a great way to enhance PEO's public interest and protection mandate.
Great, thank you all. I'm going to go to one of the questions that came in from an audience member, a licensed engineer in Ontario, and it actually touched on this topic of climate change. So the question talked about how another regulator, this is in British Columbia, so they're called EGBC, or Engineers Geoscientists British Columbia. So they currently have, or are, in the process of developing an action plan on climate change, and its purpose is to provide guidance to its members. So, what are your thoughts on what is happening across the country, and how does PEO interact with other engineering regulators across the country? And with an example like this particular plan that's in place for EGBC, is there anything happening across the country that you think Ontario should look at and adopt? What are your thoughts on that? So I'm sorry, the first question, this question now is going with Paula to start with.
Okay, well, what's interesting, the example you gave with EGBC is just now breaking up their engineering regulator into something that's going to look very much like OSPI and something that looks very much like PEO. And what's going to happen is the part of this climate change that they're working on, people feel that's going to go into more of the group that looks like OSPI. So again, I think we really need to be working with OSPI, the people that advocate for change as climate change, whereas we focus on taking what they're doing and bringing it into the regulation. One of the things, another example where we have taken ideas that people elsewhere have done was how we look at new licensees now. What we're doing.
Yeah, thanks, Paula. Sean, let's go over to you. So just to recap, should PEO follow the lead of other engineering regulators across the country? And if so, are there any particular things of notation that you think should come to Ontario?
Certainly. I mean, if it makes sense, PEO should absolutely adopt what other professional bodies are doing. I think via PEO's relationship with Engineers Canada, hopefully, again, giving that kind of like oversight and, amalgamation role, Engineers Canada can absolutely take these like best practices, lessons learned, offer them up as best practice cases, and PEO should be absolutely involved in seeing what our partners are doing across the country.
Thanks, Sean, very much. And Vaj, let's read the final word on this question. So again, just to recap, looking at what other engineering regulators are doing across the country, is there anything of note that you think should be brought to Ontario, or how PEO would consider those activities in this province?
Yeah, in terms of the climate change, you mentioned EGBC. It's not very easy to change the act at PEO, and you know it very well. As I mentioned in one of my responses, we can go through for the environmental climate change through Professional Standards Committee and look at what EGBC has done. Also, you were asking what other provinces are doing. We should be very careful and watchful what's happening in provinces like Quebec and Alberta. Alberta is right now the Professional Association of Alberta has a lawsuit with the government of Alberta because computer science scientists have been declared engineers without getting license, and they are there's a lawsuit. And also what happened at Quebec, when we might be in the process of losing the self-regulation. And you see what happened in Quebec when their licensing body was put under the government for about 2 years. We don't want to be irrelevant. And PEO or Ontario is the biggest province, and of course we can all streamline everything through Engineers Canada.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Vaj. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go to the next question, and we'll start with you, Sean. And we've been talking a lot about opportunities, things that may be happening already at PEO. So PEO is self-regulated, meaning that the engineers and license holders who will be voting, the folks on the council as well, majority of them are also license holders. So it's called self-regulation. And so the question is really, are there threats to self-regulation in the near future? Is there anything that PEO and the engineering profession should be thinking about? So I'll just rephrase it for you, Sean. So, what do you think is as the biggest threat to self-regulation as it pertains to PEO and engineering profession?
Thanks. So I see, well, first and foremost, the opposite, or if we were not self-regulated and had external regulation by the government, I think the probable biggest threat to that is PEO's inadequate response to emerging challenges. We need continuous support from local and provincial governments to continue to be self-regulating, and any erosion of public trust or missteps that that PEO might take would likely contribute to that erosion. As someone who deals frequently and interacts with all levels of government through my work, I like to think that I possess the relationship and strategic management skills necessary to ensure that self-regulation can live on.
Thank you, Sean. Vaj, let's go to you. And can you share your thoughts on what you see as the biggest threat to self-regulation as it pertains to PEO and the engineering profession here in Ontario?
Well, the biggest threat I see in vis-a-vis to self-regulation is PEO is becoming very, very isolated from its members. And as I said in my preamble, decisions are being made on behalf of members without any input from them on important decisions. So, and self-regulation, it's a privilege. It's not a right. Government can take it away. They are very carefully watching what we are doing at PEO. There have been talks about that we should have a couple other regulating bodies which can regulate people in emerging disciplines. I am not of that opinion. I think we should have only one regulator in Ontario. So if we do not, unfortunately, if we're not smart enough, this self-regulation may not be what we have now in future.
Thanks, Vaj. And Paula, your final word on this question, and I'll just rephrase again about what do you see as the biggest threat to self-regulation as it pertains to PEO and the engineering profession in Ontario?
I think the biggest, it's kind of what I had talked about earlier. The biggest threat to the PEO is member apathy, or worse, resentment of some members to the organization and lack of interest from the others. We really need to get the members interested if we want to self-regulate. Many employers do not see the value of professional engineering. Quite often, prospective members who are academics are told to get their license in other provinces and then transfer back to Ontario because Ontario doesn't recognize the work they do as engineering. However, they will recognize it once someone else recognizes it. These people really feel disrespected and discouraged. Moving into another area, we don't practice engineering in silos anymore. We need to consider new models of licensure.
Thanks, Paula. Thank you. So, we've talked already about sort of external influences, right? In terms of possible threats and opportunities. And I want to look a little bit now internal to the organization and the board of directors. So I want to talk about what some of those weaknesses might be. So kind of being really honest, let's start with you, Vaj. As within the organization, within the board, what weaknesses, if any, do you think PEO should improve as a regulator and looking at how it governs the profession?
Some of the weaknesses PEO can improve in the board of directors are in terms of governance. I would request whosoever goes on the council, please come prepared. Read the packages. We cannot rubber stamp things without knowing and see what my fellow councillor has, how he or she has voted. Please come prepared and assess the impact. we cannot allow, then we can be exploited unfortunately by the staff if we don't come prepared. So that is something I would like to improve. It's kind of, you can't make it mandatory, but it's an expectation that please read the packages, why they have been put there, what are the reasons, and make meaningful decisions. That is something I would stress that council does, making educated decisions, and do not have too much reliance on staff. Yes, we need them, but not on very important issues. You are engineers, you know better than the staff who may not have an engineering degree. So please do come prepared for the council.
Thank you very much. And Paula, what about yourself? Internally in the organization, the board, what weaknesses, if any, should PEO seek to improve in its role as a regulator?
I think PEO needs to work on fairness and transparency. I think some of the decisions that were made under the general heading of FARPACTA were not necessarily equitable. For example, PEO has a recognized program list, and I have not been able to find this recognized program list that apparently has many schools that meet the Washington Accord standards that I talked about before, and those people can take supplemental exams as part of their academic requirement. Many of the technologist programs in Canada meet those Washington Accord standards, but they're deemed not academically qualified to pursue this pathway. So I'm not sure everything that, all of the changes that were done under fairness are really as fair as PEO might think they are. In terms of transparency, we really need to be transparent. Sorry.
Thanks very much, Paula. And Sean, what about you? Final word on this question.
Yeah, to me, what I see PEO's biggest weakness is its perception and the way that its members view the body. I think it's not uncommon for people to feel like their relationship with PEO is unilateral, where they pay their $300 a year in exchange for debatably slow, outdated processes, timely processes to report CPDs, gaining licensure. And in exchange, yes, we have the opportunity to call ourselves professional engineers and practice what we love. But in kind of like the day-to-day, I think perception could absolutely be strengthened, and there's a great opportunity to build on.
Thanks very much, Sean. So listen, we're going to go to you, Paula, for the next question. This is going to be like a bit of a lightning round, and so you have the minute, but just really quickly, we've got over 90,000 license holders in Ontario, so PEO must be doing something right. So what do you think PEO's strengths are? Paula, you first.
I'll start right out with, I think the biggest strength of PEO is their strong register and CEO. I've observed her to be collaborative on a national basis. In my mind, that's probably the biggest strengths. Other strengths that have happened that I've observed in the past are working with the young engineers and the mentorship and the community, the engineering community here in Canada. I think that's strong. I think what Canada or what PEO really does well too is it picks up on things other organizations have done. For example, we had talked a little bit about what had come from other institutions. Alberta, we've gathered things from Alberta. We're not afraid to collaborate with other provinces to come up with solutions to problems.
Thanks very much. Sean, over to you. Strengths of PEO.
Yeah, I think the biggest strength is the reach of nearly 100,000 people in Ontario. And I mean, not to throw shade at other professions, but engineers are, at the end of the day, some of the best problem solvers. So I see this as a strength in that there are a lot of us, and we are a very smart and problem-solving inclined group. However, again, just like the weaknesses, I see opportunities to engage more with the nearly 100,000 people across Ontario, make sure their voices are heard and opinions are brought to the table for some of the challenges we face.
Great, thank you very much. And Vaj, yourself, strengths of PEO.
Yeah, one of the strengths of PEO, thank God we hired the first female CEO registrar in Concord area. And I think that's a strength. Jennifer has proved herself pretty well that was a very right and thoughtful decision PEO council made. That's a strength. One of the strengths I can see is that we, because of although I do disagree with some of the recommendations from Harry Clayton's report, but one of them I agree with that when we divided PEO into two parts like governance and operation, I think that's a good thing. We do not need to go into the minutiae of what operation is doing. That's a strength. But we cannot rely too much on the staff to make decisions on our behalf. We need to come prepared. And another strength is the only regulator still in Ontario, and it over 90,000 membership. We don't want to have any threat to that. We don't want other parallel organizations coming up. I still support that PEO should stay as the only regulator in Ontario.
Thank you, Vaj. Okay, listen, Sean, we're going to go to you, and let's talk a little bit about this role of Councillor-at-Large. So I was president of PEO in 2020, 2021, and took a lot of time. So let the voters understand, how will you manage your time so that you can really fulfill your duties on council while obviously managing all the other things that all of you are doing. So can you please share with the audience a bit about how you've thought about managing the time to be able to really fulfill the duties and do the best job as Councillor-at-Large?
Absolutely. I am very well practiced in the art of balancing competing demands and a very busy schedule. In university, while studying engineering, I balanced demands of being a Division I athlete, a feat that incurred an additional 25 to 30 hours plus travel while in university. I began my career in engineering working for a small firm with long hours, and I did so simultaneously while beginning a career in professional football, again, balancing demands of work and training. And in the most recent 6 years, after kind of hanging up the cleats and saying goodbye to football, I've completed, while working full-time, Masters of Engineering, as well as Masters of Business Administration degrees part-time. So in terms of balancing heavy workload and extracurriculars, I am very, very able and willing.
Thank you, Sean. Vaj, can you share with the voters in the audience tonight, how you manage your time to be able to really fulfill these duties? That can be quite substantial.
Yes, that's true. It can be. And I have been actually doing it for many, many years. I have served on many boards simultaneously. I think it all comes to time management. I still serve on Engineers for Profession board. And in the past, I have served on Saugeen Social United Football Club and Society of United Professionals. And at the same time, maintaining a full-time job. And I have been twice on council. One thing people can tell you, they may have differences with me, and that's okay. I do come prepared when I come to the council. I go through the package. It's all time management. And I kind of have the habit of doing it since I have done it for about 17 years now, volunteering for PU and other organizations. So it's not something new to me. So it's pretty straightforward for me how I balance and manage the time.
Thank you very much, Vaj. And Paula, please, can you share with the audience about how you will manage your time to be able to do these significant duties of a Councillor-at-Large?
I have read and understood the council duties before applying for the position and still applied.
Did you want to add a bit,
did you want me to add a little bit? I find the question a bit, I will leave it at that.
Oh, great. Short and sweet, no worries. So listen, thank you all so much. This has been a really robust conversation. And so this concludes the question portion of the meeting. And so now we will give each candidate a chance to have 90 seconds for their closing remarks. So we'll go ahead and start with you, Vaj Bande, maybe have your closing remarks, and you have 90 seconds. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Engineer Sterling, Dr. Klink, and Engineer Declo, and other participants who are watching the debate. my fellow engineers. We face critical challenges like not keeping up with the change in engineering disciplines. This demands action from an experienced member of the council who can effectively address these pressing issues. I believe I am the right candidate to do that. During my previous term on council, we were successfully able to put emerging disciplines on the PEO work plan. Unfortunately, it has been about a year and nothing tangible has been done. If I am fortunate enough to be elected as your councillor-at-large, I'll make sure that PEO takes meaningful steps on the emerging discipline issue. So elect Vaj Bande as a councillor-at-large. A vote for Vaj is a vote for self-governance. A vote for Vaj is a vote for bringing PEO into the 21st century. A vote for Vaj is a vote for trust, truth and accountability. A vote for Vaj is a vote for democratic principles. And most importantly, a vote for Vaj is a vote for you, the members and engineers. To know further about my candidature, please visit my website, www.votevaj.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Vaj. Paula Clint, may we have your closing remarks, please?
Sure. One of the things that most people who work with me know that I'm a listener, I'm a collaborator, I'm a doer, but most importantly, I'm a pragmatist. For example, 20-ish years ago, I noticed a decline in engineering enrollment for women. I was new to Canada, but had the ear of the Queen's Dean at the time. I had an idea, a province-wide event to expose middle and high school girls and their parents to engineering. Didn't know anyone, so I found who I needed to contact. I contacted Val Davidson, who was the Ontario Women in Engineering Chair, and Lisa Massey, who ran the best outreach programs in the province at the country. Got our heads together, met with people from all of the universities and had two excellent outcomes. One is the Ontario Women in Engineering group that still exists today, and an event that's called Go Eng Girl that occurs nationwide. They didn't come up exactly as hot as I thought they would, but they worked well. I have agreed to run for council because I think I can help PEO with its transformation to a regulator and a modern, using a modern risk-based approach. I recognize that everyone doesn't practice engineering all of the time at our jobs, and we need to focus our efforts on those who present the largest risks to public safety. Like me, I support drinking water protection than those whose work presents fewer risks, like my husband, a university professor. Thank you for the time you have taken to listen, and I look forward to your support.
Thank you very much. And our third and final candidate tonight, Sean DeClue, please, your closing remarks. You have 90 seconds.
Sure. I just wanted to quickly say thanks to Vaj and Paula. It was great to share the stage with others who share a passion for engineering and the role that PEO plays here in Ontario. For those listening in at home, I look forward to meeting many of you at a handful of upcoming chapter events. I feel like a bit of a touring band trying to figure out how many I'm going to be able to attend over the next couple of weeks here. I think it's looking like close to a dozen. Looking forward to hearing more about your views and ideas for PEO and how we can make it better together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sean. So this concludes tonight's discussion. I would like to thank the candidates for their participation and also all of you watching online for your interest in the governance of the engineering profession. I hope you found the meeting to be informative and worthwhile. As a reminder, a recording of all meetings will be on the PEO website for the duration of the election. Thank you again to everyone for participating in our discussion. And then remember, your profession matters. So does your vote. Voting is quick and easy. You can vote on the internet or by phone. Voting does open on January the 27th, and it closes at 10 a.m. on February the 24th. And all the information you need is on the website at peovote.ca. That's peovote.ca. Have a good night.